Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaskar, I'm Devdip Purkayastha from the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. Welcome to my course, Business Fundamentals for Entrepreneurs. This is actually the last module of the course, and in this module, I'll quickly recap the course and wrap the course up. But before I start, my compliments to each of you. Congratulations to each of you who are watching this module, because if you look at the vastness of the curriculum, the range of topics that you have covered in the last 12 weeks or so is really praiseworthy. You have completed almost a mini MBA course. So with my compliments, let's look back at what this course was all about. This course has been offered by IIT Bombay, and I am a faculty at the Desai Sethi School of Entrepreneurship at IIT Bombay. What's the background for this course? As you may be aware that the world is changing fast. Technology is changing, new tools are coming up like ChatGPT, etc. The socio-economic landscape of the world is changing. And it means that all of you as students or working professionals or entrepreneurs have to continuously reskill and upskill yourself if you want a business career. As you can see, a global think tank called World Economic Forum has estimated that 50% of today's workforce will need to reskill or upskill or broaden their skill sets in the next few years. And this course is meant to help you do that. I have tried to address the needs of several types of participants in this course. For example, students, many of you who are students, I have tried to offer you something which will help you make better career choices. For working professionals who have taken this course and faculty, thank you for taking this course, and hopefully you would have broadened your understanding of business. And for entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, hopefully this course will help you decide whether and how to start up. So to summarize the benefits, essentially, each of you, whether you are a student, a working professional, an entrepreneur, or a faculty member, hopefully can elevate your career through a broader, better understanding of business. For example, if you are an arts student or a commerce student or a science student or an engineering student, you may have a very good view of your domain, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, or mathematics, or physics, or chemistry. But if you want to build a business career, you need to look at the overall view of business as a student. Similarly, if you are a working professional, maybe 5 or 6 years into your career, you're probably still in a function, working in a function, a sales function, marketing function, ops functions, HR function, marketing finance, any of those functions. But to grow to your next level or to do a better job in your current level, you need a broader view of business. If you're in sales, you need to understand a bit about operations and marketing and finance and HR or IT systems and vice versa. And if you're an entrepreneur with an idea, with a passion, you need to understand at least the overview and all the different aspects of business so you can start up and succeed. And if you're a faculty who is teaching maybe a domain or even business management, hopefully this course should have given you a broader view of companies, functions, businesses, and how the best companies succeed. So in terms of design, I've tried to provide videos. There are lots of videos which you can watch. Embedded in all of these videos are lots of mini case studies from some of the world's best companies, the Tatas or the Godrej or the Mahindras or the Procter & Gamble or the DHL and so on. There are also lots of assignments, some practice, some graded, some not graded. And then of course are the tests, especially the written test. All of you now hopefully are ready as you watch this wrap-up video for the written test that will be coming up. Good luck for that. But to help you prepare for the written test, to help you look back at the course, let me quickly run you through what we have covered in the 12 weeks. So in the first 4 weeks, we started at a very high level overview of business. What is a business? And then you move to what is a company, types of companies, private limited, partnerships, LLPs, LLCs, proprietorship, etc. Then you moved into what are the driving long-term purpose, values, goals of a company, like Tata's or Mahindras or Godrej, which are 100, 150 years old, or a Procter & Gamble, which is 180 years old. How do they, over decades and centuries, function with a long-term, a vision, a mission, a goal, a purpose, values? And then I talked about the strategy and culture of a company, which are very important for you to be a successful employee or to do your own startup and run your own companies, or in your team if you're a working professional. Then I talked about the more operational aspects of innovation and new product development, which is particularly relevant if you are a brand manager, R&D manager, or product manager, or if you want to do your startup. Then I talked about manufacturing and quality standards. How do you manufacture millions of pieces, billions of pieces of soaps, shampoos, cars, refrigerators, and ensure quality? Then you moved into the whole financial world of accounting and funds management, financial management, balance sheet, profit and loss, cash flows, etc. And then we talked about a very important aspect of leadership. All of you will ultimately, sooner or later, be a leader. You need to be a good leader, a successful leader. So how do you become that? I talked about that. And then how do you manage employees and human resources in a company? And then we talked about how do good companies, the best companies, your company or your college, if you're a faculty, take care of the environment, of society, and have good governance. And to summarize, in the first 4 weeks, I talked about the internal operations of a company. In the next 4 weeks, which is weeks 5 to 8, I covered how companies operate externally, outside themselves. How do they study the market research? Then we talked about customers, because no company can survive without customers. So how do you find your customers? What are the customer segments? How do you win with customers? How do you have a great customer value proposition? And then we talked about something called values-based marketing. So once you've found your customers and your market, how do you do marketing? We talked about advertising, branding, promotions, positioning. And then we talked about marketing communication, especially in today's world, social media marketing, digital marketing, mainstream marketing. We talked all of that. Then we went into the selling domain. So what are sales channels? Malls, small stores, e-commerce sites. And how to distribute product across the whole country or someday over the world. Then we talked about how to sell. All of you have to sell at some point of your career. How do you sell to businesses? How do you sell to consumers? What are the skill sets and methods and technologies of selling? Then we talked about customer service management. How do you make sure your customers stay loyal to you and you give them great experience and service? Remember, you are also customers in your daily life. And you will hate it if you don't get good customer service, either from a delivery site or an e-commerce site or a restaurant site or a ticketing site. You'll be very angry if you have poor customer service. So how do you, for your company, ensure great customer service? And then we talked about supply chain and logistics, which is a very, very important domain. How to bring in a lot of material, make the products, and then send out the finished goods. So weeks 5 to 8 was all about winning and external operations. And in the last 4 weeks, I covered a few important concepts. The first is about risk management, information management. Risk management, all businesses have risk. All of us have risks in our daily lives. How do you manage those risks? How do you identify and proactively prevent them or manage them? How do you prepare? And then we talked about information management. How do companies use large volumes of data? A large company, think about an e-commerce site or a supply chain site or a consumer goods site. They'll have crores, hundreds of crores of customers. A large global e-commerce site may have hundreds of millions of customers. They may be selling hundreds or thousands or lakhs, hundreds of thousands of products. And they may be delivering into thousands of PIN codes or zip codes. So if you multiply all of that, number of customers into number of products and number of delivery points and supplies, and you put everything together, you get huge data. That's called big data. So how do you manage that data? And how do you make business decisions based on data? We covered that. And then we got into a little bit of how do you start your own business. With all that business knowledge, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you're a working professional and want to start your own business, or within your company, become an intrapreneur, which means you use the entrepreneurial approach within the company. Or if you're a student who wants to do something on the side, or if you're a faculty member who wants to do a startup in the college. Many colleges encourage faculty to start up. So in the last few weeks, I focus on that. So it started with business types and models, different kinds of business types. And those of you who are socially inclined, I also talk about social businesses. How do you develop a social business, which is different from charity or for-profit? And then I talked about tools and methodologies of actually starting up. Different tools like lean startups, agile development, design thinking, etc. We talked about how do you find out community needs for United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. So we talked all of that. And then in the last module, I talked about if you have got business case, if you have written a business case, made a business presentation, whether you are in the company, whether you are a student making a business case presentation in a competition or in a course, or a faculty making a business presentation for your department. How to do a great business presentation, both written, how to write it, and how to speak it. The 3 C's of business communication: correctness, conciseness, yet clear. So we talked all of that. Now we have come to the end of this course. My compliments to each of you for having covered such a vast curriculum. Thank you for being with me through the course. But what's next? What can you do next after this course? So if you're a student, hopefully you'll get more clear as you go through the course in terms of what's your future. Do you want to go the marketing way, the sales way, the finance way, the HR way, or the operations and manufacturing way, or the R&D way? Hopefully you've got a sample of each of those functions and you can decide which is the next course. If you're a working professional in one function, do you want to go to some other function? If you are a faculty teaching a certain domain, do you want to expand your teaching or research into a broader business domains? If you're an entrepreneur, and I encourage all of you to think about starting your own business, whoever you are, wherever you are, there are 1,200 incubators, startup incubators across the country today. They're all supported by the government. They're all listed in the government website called Startup India. You can search for them. I would encourage each of you to go to the nearest business incubator. So if you're in Orissa, maybe you go to an incubator in Bhubaneswar. If you're in Tamil Nadu, go to a Chennai incubator. If you're in Karnataka, go to a Bangalore incubator. So go to a nearby incubator with your startup idea and see if you can actually do your startup and start a company, and hopefully all the learnings of this course will have helped you. All of you will be sitting, or I hope all of you or most of you will be sitting for the written test in a few days' time. I wish you best of luck for the written test and in your careers. Thank you. Namaste.